Meninga confirming the discussions. With the Ashes series against England no longer able to take place for Meninga's men due to the coronavirus pandemic, the Australian national side are now looking at the all-conquering All Blacks as a potential opponent, with a 14-a-side game at the proposition on the table. What do you make of this one?
It's a real eyebrow raiser, this one. I don't personally. I don't see the point. I don't see a one-off match like this is going to raise enough revenue to fill any holes in bank balances to me. But it's the best rugby league team, arguably, in the world against the best rugby union team, arguably, in the world, playing a game that neither of them are the best at because it's just been made up.
Yeah, it seems it'd be interesting to see how it works and then how you fall up from that as well. I suppose it does seem a little bit odd that they've just cancelled the series with England, and then suddenly they're talking this. It just feels like the timing's a bit too close to be throwing this around.
I don't know. I don't see any sort of weirdness in that regard. I don't think. I think it probably did start when it became obvious the Ashes weren't going to happen, because although it's only been formally announced within the last in the last month that the Ashes isn't happening, we've known for 3 months that it was unlikely to happen. One of the other developments in the League Express I was reading were telling a story that someone potentially holds the legal rights to the 14-a-side game, and so would want some sort of involvement in this competition. It's just baffling. If it's something that if it was put on the television, I don't even know if I'd watch it out of curiosity.
Well, you'd have to get up to watch it, presumably. Yeah, it seems an odd one. It doesn't seem quite thought through enough at this stage to be worth of too much interest. It just seems like someone's dreamt it up as a something to do. But there we go.
It doesn't feel like something we should be doing now. It feels like the sort of madcap schemes of decades gone by. Like it's about time we become resolved to the fact that we're two entirely different professional sports and leave it at that. To me, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure lots of people will find
maybe it's all the people watching the Bath Wigan game on YouTube over lockdown. Maybe that's what's sparked it off.
Yeah, because what they thought when watching that side was Wigan needed an extra player to cut that Bath defence to ribbons. Sort of other sideways news in the world, more rugby league this one. In a Q&A with 4020 News, the Euro 13's general manager Dean Buchan has discussed the format for next year's proposed competition, which will see 16 teams compete in a straight knockout. The tournament will last 6 weeks and will be completed prior to the domestic seasons kicking off. So that's going to be quite a challenge, with lots of different domestic seasons to work with, and some clubs who don't play in any domestic season being involved. Obviously that simplifies it there. Buchan added that the 2022 plan is to extend the cup format to 32 teams and to include an 8-team league that can further strengthen teams across Europe. Now, me and Alan and I think Sarah on one of the episodes too have all kind of put our views forward on this, that generally we're positive about the idea of a developmental league around Europe. Not entirely sure how semi-professional or even community clubs can exist in this country without the RFL sort of being involved in that. So that's something to be resolved still there. What they've announced, another team in, the Edinburgh Eagles, who are an established team up north of the border and probably are a team that really this type of competition will be valuable because they've struggled to raise sufficient amounts of competition over the years, so some extra games for a club like that is a real positive. I know, Tim, you've had a run-in with one of the potential well, not a run-in, but you don't want you to know what's going on with them. So what's your take?
I asked some questions and was not given answers. So I just think the way this has come about has been dangerous. I think initially, when I heard the initial idea of a developmental league of playing sides who couldn't get sides within their own country to play each other, to play across Europe, to have one competition, I thought that sounded like a good idea. I was quite enthusiastic, and something I wanted to get involved and potentially find out more about. As it's come out, there's more and more questions for me. There's more things that just seem a bit sketchy. Number one is, from a player's point of view, is around insurance. So if something happens to you, if you're playing rugby league in this country in an RFL competition, then you are insured because it's a proper sanctioned game and you've got a qualified referee and qualified coaches and that kind of thing. So you've got a level of protection there. Now, if I'm playing in that league and something happens, say, break a leg, even simple as that, are you going to have the requisite insurance in place? Are you going to be able to, what if you got concussed and couldn't fly back with the rest of the team, for example? And I know when semi-professional sides go over to Toronto, they have to do a lot of contingency planning around that. So they have to have a designated second flight in place if someone can't make it, and things like that. And there's lots of information you have to provide and lots of things you have to go through.
It in a Danny Brough World Cup.
No, for genuine medical reasons rather than recreational reasons, shall we say. So I know there's lots of planning, lots of form filling that has to go in for the right reasons. You're just not going to be, as a player, you're not going to be protected. You're not going to have that backbone, and whether this organisation that seems very ungoverned, shall we say. It doesn't seem to be much governance structure in place. Doesn't seem to be things like judiciary or any sort of proper refereeing structure. Who's going to do the refereeing appointments? Where are the venue? There's so many questions for me, and it just feels a bit dodgy and a bit hastily prepared. It's almost like someone's had the idea but not thought about how to get there and how to do it sensibly and safely. And I kind of worry that that's going to cause problems either with potential sponsors, with potential funding from governments, potential European funding, all sorts of things, because it just makes rugby league look disorganised. It just makes us look like we can't do things properly if that sort of thing happens. And if an incident were to happen, if you think worst case scenario, something like a Mossy Masai or, heaven forbid, a Danny Jones incident, then is the support networks going to be anything as good as structured RFL or Super League competitions can provide? And that's what worries me, is from thinking from a player's point of view. I don't know if I would want to play in this type of competition, because it just doesn't feel like you've got any backing.
I suppose one of the positives is they've still got sort of 6-9 months to work out some of those things, maybe fall into closer relationship with some of the governing bodies, the European Federation that governs the international game around sort of everywhere but Australia, and the RFL, who would be able to help them in lots of ways with that. So hopefully there is positive development there.
I think one of the other things that concerns me is around the development aspect. You say you're about development, and that's one of the stated goals, but then they're launching into development areas where there are existing development pathways. So if you think of in Wales and Birmingham, there aren't that many players to go around who aren't already, if there aren't many players who aren't already playing the sport, so all you're doing really is taking them off somewhere else. So you're taking them away from another club, potentially taking them away from getting into a professional structure in some cases, but in a lot of cases you're taking them away from other amateur clubs.
Well, what we want to avoid there is kind of taking something away from the amateur clubs that have the whole age group up set up. So if these clubs establish themselves with the whole age group up set up as well, then potentially it's just more local outreach, more local coaching, more local availability. But if they're just coming in at an open age level and basically taking over other local open age teams with without that, like you say, development aspect, then it does become a worry, doesn't it? So it does depend on what the more strategic goals of those clubs are. But that's why I question the need for them to be in this country. I think have them in Scotland, have them in Ireland, have them in Spain. Yeah. Absolutely, completely. I'm all for it. I don't see the need to have
someone wants to play
an English
league,
or Welsh team where we've got
outlet.
semi-professional.
Yeah, there's enough outlet for someone to play rugby league in this country if they're good enough to play to a decent standard, and it's up to. And there's nothing stopping clubs organising their own tours and things within the RFL structure, but doing it sensibly and safely. And there is, structure in place. I know there are, forms you fill in and help, and they can help you with the travel and the insurance and all the things you have to think about. And so there is plenty in place. So it's not just we fancy a holiday. That's not really. It's just the whole thing around it, and then the attitude of the people involved to any questioning and any logical, sensible questions of why are you doing this or what have you done. It's almost sort of the Donald Trump fake news, like they're all out to get us, rather than people who, in a lot of cases, have got the best interests of rugby league and are very experienced in the sport, asking valid and sensible questions.
Yeah, it's kind of if you're not with us, you're against us kind of idea, and I would say we would want to help these people. We would want to support these types of people, but that just asking questions about it doesn't mean we're against it. And I really like the idea,
particularly
of the
with the Birmingham
Development League. I just don't understand why English and Welsh clubs need to be involved, personally.
Yeah, with the whole Birmingham Worcester situation, it doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. If you've got a club there who admittedly haven't even played a game, so Worcester haven't actually played a game, so they've not played a game, and yet they're already setting up another club an hour up the road, and it just doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. And you've had a couple of clubs run by similar people who've not played a number of games and not lasted for a number of seasons. So there's lots of questions there for me.
Yeah, we need to find a way to everyone work together rather than work against each other. This isn't about making your own little empire for people. It should be about making rugby league better for more people across more countries.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about building sustainability as much as anything. It's what we want. It's not just see this be a thing that happens for a couple of years, but something that if it's got legs and it's a good concept, you want to see it in there long term and become part of the fabric and the structure.
Yeah.
You don't want it to become something that comes and goes.
I'd love to see.
That's why people are asking questions.
Yeah, I'd love to see Championship or Super League scouts at the Euro 13's final picking out the finest young sort of amateur talent that's coming along.
Yeah.
And you'd love to see a seniors final and a juniors final and a women's final, of that sort of competition all played together, so that people can go and see these talents, bring them into the semi-professional or professional game, and develop it from there.
Exactly. The first we could have the first Moldovan in Super League.
Yeah, and I do think some of the things they've come out with about, they want it to be a development competition. They don't want semi-professional clubs involved. They have some sponsorship on board that will cover some of the travel costs and those sorts of things. There are things coming out that are definitely positive and to be built on. So hopefully we'll see more of that and less of the if you're not with us, you're against us.
Yeah. As soon as certain clubs unblock me, it's fine.
Troublemaker, Tim.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm known for. Anyway, moving on. The Guardian have reported that the Rugby Football League will decide within the next few days whether a series. I'm going to drop the word here. I'm not going to. The series of racist posts on social media linked to the Black Lives Matter movement are serious enough to be investigated. The governing body has decided to address the matter after at least one person came forward and provided evidence of what is considered to be racial remarks. Jermaine Coleman, the Jamaica and London Scholars coach, who is the only black coach in the professional game, told The Guardian this week he was keen to see how the RFL would react to the comments and said that it could incite racism